boom, 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 chicka, 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 boom, 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 chicka. Hello. Instead of trying to give you an update on an update again, I'm just gonna tell you in this video, I had lost some files, and so I need to start over with my other video. But this video, I decided that I would just go ahead with my network video, and I would get it to, I would describe the network in its current state. I hope to have it out by 2023. And I know it's not even to version A yet, but it's better than nothing. Okay, what I'm showing you now, here, I'll show you around a little bit. So here's the view of my, apartment to get an idea of where it's at. And now I'll show you where my computer equipment is. So I have this one here, which is my main server equipment. Then I've got this one here, which has a few servers. And look, it stores some paper too. And then I've got this one, which stores client software. Here we're zooming in on the brains of my network, the main parts of it. Here we've got a cable modem, which allows my internet connection to function. And then down here, over here, we have a pfSense box, which is connected to main router. Well, it is connected to main router, but it's connected to the cable modem to give me internet. And then below it, we have main router, which is connected to the pfSense. If main router doesn't function, none of it functions. Over here, we have more switches. And these are what allows client router to be connected. Client router, again, it's right here. Ooh, dusty, but that's okay. Client router basically allows most of the clients, such as my main laptop, to connect to the internet and the rest of the network. There is one cable, if you can see it. It's hard to point to, but trust me, over here there's one cable, and the cable goes, I can't remember exactly where. I really need to figure out my wiring a little bit better, but it works just fine. I just forgot how it works exactly, but the wire connects main router to client router. by connecting to the switches, these two, which are hooked up in an uplink configuration. And they're hooked up there. And that's what gives it its connection. All the basic connections are wired. We use wireless when we need to, but all the basic functions of the network are wired. It's worth mentioning that this blue switch here is actually only a 10100 megabit switch, whereas this one and the rest of the switches support gigabit or higher, but right now it's just gigabit is the standard one when we add new hardware mostly. But there's this old one that's 10100. And yes, it's slower, but I do not notice the problem. Even when I have multiple users connecting to it, I do not notice a problem. Over here, we have three things. So just to get a perspective, here is most of my clients. Here is some more router equipment, basic network equipment, we'll call it. So right here, we have a switch. And again, I don't remember exactly how it's done, but somewhere hidden here is a cord that goes from these switches somewhere over there to this switch up here. And then, to top it all off, we've got non-secure router, and we've got guest router. Guest router is for guests, and non-secure router is for IoT smart home devices. Over here in a drawer, I have extra routers. And I'm showing you this because this is an Linksys E1200. And it should be noted that most of the network equipment, the basic routers on the network, are E1200s. Linksys E1200s. Now, all of them are flashed with DDWRT software. Without that, it's useless. It's just useless. But when you flash them with DDRWT software, they become functional at all. And they're kind of old. They only support N. So now why would only supporting N be an advantage? Well, that part's not really an advantage. But why would it be an advantage that they're kind of old at this point, the router models? And how did I get so many in a drawer laying around? Well, those questions can be answered in one single thing. I can get them at the thrift store. Now, I'm pretty low income right now, so being able to get them at the thrift store is a real plus. Now, they're actually worth a lot more to me, especially after I flash them with DDWRT. However, if I bought them for what they were worth, I might not be able to really afford them, and I might have a problem. In fact, since I rely on the network for basic day-to-day functions, I may not even be able to manage my home okay. So they are, fortunately, you can get them at the thrift store, and shh, don't tell Goodwill what they're worth. And by the way, that's where I got some of the switches as well. And the other ones I got from Fred Meyer, which are, well, Fred Meyer's about the biggest store in town. However, Fred Meyer's pretty cheap too for switches. If you have to buy new and you don't want to buy online, Fred Meyer is the place to go for network equipment in town. It just depends on your needs. Sometimes I would recommend that you look online, but sometimes you can look at Fred Meyer. It depends on the needs of the network. Now, for my network, starting with thrift store components was a major plus. Boy, I've been waiting to tell you this for months now, and it's a relief. But shh, don't tell Goodwill. So now I'm going to tell you something else. Basically, I count a bunch of things as far as my network documentation goes. I count a bunch of things as part of the network, being part of the network, so that documenting them is easy. Basically, I count anything that I would need to rebuild the network in its current location, and then I also count anything that's basics to living on my own, with the goal in mind that for organization, everything goes through the computer. Here I'm showing you a tour of my apartment. So here's my bedroom. And then I've got the entryway, the bathroom, the kitchen, the living room, and that's it. I showed you the tour of the apartment. Why now? Because the apartment is the first part of my network besides the brains that I showed you. Because first comes utility docs, which starts with buildings. So in the buildings, I basically have detailed instructions, or will have right now, but I will have them again eventually. Detailed instructions for what the building looks like, just the layout of the building. And then the next thing is electricity. So We'll get to that in a moment. Electricity. Now, obviously, the electricity comes in from American sockets. Right here is an example of one. It's basically three-pronged, or sometimes in older houses, two-pronged outlets. Okay, now what have I done? In most outlets, here's one, and here's another. These sockets have surge protectors, most of the time with command hooks to hang them up on the walls. And they've got sockets. They've got surge protectors in most outlets. So I have many devices plugged in to just a few outlets. Now, this was a historical choice I made about my apartments. I wouldn't trade this even if I no longer needed the network. I would still have to have this. Well, I mean, if I no longer needed the network proper, I would still have to have it. Because there is just no way in these small apartments, which I have a chance of affording, that I can have enough outlets. Even when you only consider basic things like vacuums and a few things to charge, there is just no way that I have enough outlets. So providing surge protectors as the next level helps solve that problem. A lot of times I start with the cheapest surge protector I can get my hands on, but it has to be functional, and I go from there. If I need a replacement one and to replace it with a larger surge protector in the future, great, but I start with those little teeny small ones with 6 to 8 devices that it can fit. That's done basically everywhere, and I've got a map of what's plugged in where. Garbage cans are next. I won't show you where they're at, but where the garbage cans are is absolutely critical for my network. This is a utility as well that the network proper relies on. So I pretty much map out, I need a map of all my garbage cans. And at this point you can probably see why a map of the building is so important. Sorry for the low quality, but it's kind of easier this way. So I have, in the network proper, we have computers, mail, phone, and TVs. Computers are pretty obvious. The mail is the public and private mail systems. Phone is a historical thing where it would be provided, we provide by the network a phone that people in the house can share. And then TVs are things like cable and how the television's wirings work. That's the network proper. Computers is the trickiest category. And let me switch over and I'll show you the private mail system. The private mail system has folders that things go in. That's for communication between possible roommates. Now it should be noted that I am by myself right now, but I've prepared for if I had a roommate. In the last category that's documented with my network, household, I have book, in-book, and time. So, book is a book full of instructions for taking care of myself. In-book is the network book, and time is all our clocks. These are things that the network relies on, but the network category is relied on for these to work. So this is the highest level of things. Okay, that was a great video. Please remember to like the video if you like it, dislike if you dislike it, and subscribe to see more content like this. This content does cost me time and money, so if you want to support me on Patreon, that's great. However, I'm not planning on doing this for my job at this point, but every little bit helps. For now, I just make them for a hobby and to inform the world. Please only support me if you can afford it, and I hope you are supporting other creators whom you like as well. I'll see you later.